The night air was heavy, almost suffocating, as another girl vanished from a quiet town I had grown up in. The streets were empty except for flashing police lights, worried parents pacing the sidewalks, and the soft whimpers of neighbors talking in hushed, terrified voices. Posters with her face covered every lamppost and corner store window, but no one seemed to know where to start. Most people chalked it up to a runaway or bad luck, but deep down, I knew something was far worse. I wasn't just any student. I had spent months studying the dark web, tracking patterns, learning to see what others couldn't. And when I logged in that night, I noticed it. Encrypted messages, unusual financial transactions, and private auctions, all hinting at a terrifying reality. Someone filthy rich, someone untouchable, was behind these disappearances. I leaned closer to my monitors, fingers hovering over the keyboard, tracing connections, following breadcrumbs that led me from one hidden server to another. My heart pounded as I realized this wasn't just one man. There were dozens. Billionaires scattered across the country, each operating in secret, thinking money and power made them invisible. The girls were just items to them, objects they bought, sold, and moved without a trace. The more I uncovered, the worse it became. Entire towns were unknowingly feeding into this network, and the authorities were blind. Every encrypted file I cracked revealed more than just transactions. It revealed arrogance, cruelty, and a twisted belief that they were above the law. By midnight, I had mapped out several key players. Mansions in secluded areas, yachts hidden in private harbors, private jets flying across borders, all connected to the auctions I had uncovered. And then the pattern hit me. The girls weren't being taken randomly. One town after another, the same method, the same timing. They were organized, coordinated, and systematic. A chill ran down my spine as I realized I was staring at a network that no one had dared touch for years. My hands shook as I documented everything, knowing that this knowledge could save lives or put me in danger. I paused, staring at the screen, a mixture of fear and resolve washing over me. I couldn't tell my friends or family. The wrong person knowing even a fragment of this could tip off these men. They were powerful, connected, and utterly ruthless. But one thing became crystal clear. I was the only one who could act fast enough. I had the skills, the access, and now the evidence. Every decision I made in the next hours could determine whether another girl would disappear into that shadowy underworld or whether this network would finally be exposed. I tightened my grip on the keyboard, my mind racing with possibilities, knowing the first move would set everything into motion. Tonight, the hunt would begin. The next morning, I barely slept. My eyes were glued to the screens, tracing every encrypted message, every suspicious transaction, every hidden account that could lead me to the truth. It wasn't just one billionaire, as I feared. It was dozens. Mansions in Miami, yachts in the Caribbean, private jets crisscrossing borders, each connected through an intricate web of dark servers and secret auctions. The more I dug, the more I realized the scale was unimaginable. These weren't petty criminals. They were men with billions in their accounts, influence over governments, and enough power to silence anyone who got too close. And yet, every one of them had left digital footprints, underestimating someone like me, a student who understood the language of the dark web. I started documenting everything, building a map of their operations. One server led to a notorious financier in New York, another to a tech mogul in Silicon Valley, and yet another to an oil tycoon with a private island. The girls' disappearances, which had seemed like isolated tragedies, were actually part of a horrifying auction system. Each transaction carefully hidden, each transfer encrypted, but all traceable if you knew where to look. I traced payment methods, coded messages, and even obscure usernames. Slowly, a pattern emerged, and it was chilling. The girls were being moved systematically, with precision that only someone with immense resources could manage. The audacity of these men was staggering. They truly believed they were untouchable. As I connected the dots, I realized this wasn't just a local problem. It was a national network, spanning multiple states and even crossing borders. The scale was bigger than anything law enforcement had ever faced, and yet the authorities had no idea. If anyone else tried to expose them, the men would vanish before they could be caught. But I wasn't anyone else. I had the skills, the knowledge, and now the evidence. My heart pounded every time I uncovered another billionaire involved, knowing that each discovery could be the one that broke the entire network open, or put me directly in their sights. By midday, I had a list of names, addresses, and potential auction locations. Each one made my stomach turn. How many girls had vanished because these men thought they were untouchable? I could almost see them in my mind. The tycoons sipping champagne in their penthouses, while girls were treated like commodities, shipped across states, their lives discarded. I realized I needed help. I couldn't take this down alone, but reaching out was risky. If the wrong person knew I was onto them, everything could collapse. Still, I knew there was no other choice. I needed someone with authority, someone who could act without being intimidated. Homeland Security. I spent hours compiling everything: screenshots, server logs, timestamps, payment trails, and encoded messages. Every piece of evidence was crucial. By nightfall, I had a full dossier, exposing the network of billionaires and their twisted operations. I leaned back, exhausted, my mind racing. This was bigger than anything I had imagined. I wasn't just uncovering crimes. I was about to challenge men who had more power than anyone I knew. But if I hesitated, more girls would disappear. I knew one thing: I couldn't fail. Tonight, the real work began. The next morning, the town felt like it had been turned inside out. Parents huddled together in panic, whispering about the latest disappearance. Posters of missing girls lined every corner, on lampposts, storefront windows, and bulletin boards at schools. The local police were overwhelmed, taking reports but finding no leads. People were afraid to go out at night. Families spoke in hushed tones, glancing over their shoulders as if danger was hiding in every shadow. Fear had settled over the town like a thick, suffocating fog. Everyone could feel that something bigger was happening, something darker than anyone could comprehend. I watched from my cramped bedroom, staring at the monitors, as the patterns of these disappearances connected in my mind. Another girl gone from a neighboring town, and then another across state lines. The scale was horrifying, but it made one thing painfully clear: these were not random acts. These were coordinated, calculated crimes carried out by men with unimaginable wealth and power. I thought about the families, mothers and fathers desperate for answers, children wondering if they would ever see their sisters again. The more I saw, the angrier I became. Every billionaire involved thought they were untouchable and invisible, but I knew better. The town meetings were chaotic. People demanded answers, but there were none. Parents cried openly during council meetings, their voices breaking as they recounted stories of their missing daughters. Volunteers went door to door, trying to offer comfort, but all anyone could do was watch helplessly as the pattern repeated. I felt their pain, their helplessness, and it fueled me. I wasn't just uncovering data on a screen anymore. I was uncovering real human suffering. Every trace I followed on the dark web was tied to a living, breathing girl who deserved justice, and the idea of failing them was unbearable. By evening, the town felt almost paralyzed. Lights in homes flickered on and off. People kept their doors locked, and the sense of dread hung in the air like a storm about to break. I knew that this fear, this helplessness, was exactly what the billionaires counted on. They believed the town was powerless, that parents, authorities, and ordinary people like me would never uncover their crimes. But they had miscalculated. I had the evidence. I had the skills. And while the town suffered, I began planning the steps that would expose the network, one billionaire at a time. Tonight, I wasn't just a student. I was a force they had never seen coming, and the town's hope rested on every keystroke I typed. I had traced the transactions back to their sources, and what I saw made my stomach twist. These weren't just a few isolated men. They were some of the richest, most influential people in the country. One was a tech mogul in Silicon Valley, lounging in his penthouse, while dozens of girls disappeared without a trace. Another, a financier in New York, held secret auctions in hidden rooms of his estate, thinking that his wealth made him untouchable. Yet another operated from a private island in the Caribbean, moving girls across borders with private jets and yachts, confident that no one could follow him. Every one of them believed their power insulated them from the law. The audacity was staggering. They flaunted it, In encrypted messages I uncovered, they joked about new arrivals like they were products, not people. They discussed prices, locations, and even their favorite girls as if it were a game. I felt sick, but also determined. These men weren't just criminals. They were arrogant, careless, and utterly human in their hubris. Every tiny digital footprint they left was a thread I could pull to unravel the entire network. Each billionaire thought they were smart, hiding behind layers of encryption, proxies, and offshore servers. But their greed had betrayed them. They left traces everywhere, from credit transactions to private auction logs, and I began to collect them all meticulously. I could almost picture them: silk suits, extravagant watches, mansions with marble floors and golden chandeliers. Yet in the background, a world of suffering unfolding. The tech mogul laughed over champagne, unaware that I had mapped his servers. The financier bragged to friends about his exclusive collection, thinking that it could never be traced. The oil tycoon on his private island admired his fleet of yachts, oblivious to the fact that I had pinpointed every boat and jet used in his operations. Their arrogance was their weakness, and it fueled my resolve. By nightfall, I had enough evidence to link multiple billionaires to a systematic operation spanning states, borders, and private islands. I wasn't just tracking one man anymore. I had a network, a web of the most dangerous and arrogant people imaginable. Each new discovery brought me closer to the truth, but also deeper into risk. If they discovered my intrusion, if they realized I was onto them, there was no telling what they might do. Yet I couldn't back down. The stakes were too high. These girls were counting on someone to see through the shadows, and I was the only one who could. I leaned back in my chair, heart hammering, knowing that the next step would change everything. I knew I couldn't take down this network alone. These billionaires had power, money, and influence that could crush any attempt to expose them. One wrong move, and everything I had uncovered could vanish, or worse, they could come after me. After double-checking every piece of evidence, I made the decision. I had to contact Homeland Security. It wasn't easy. I spent hours drafting a message, encrypting my files, and making sure my location couldn't be traced. The evidence was massive: screenshots, server logs, payment trails, auction records. But would they believe a student had uncovered all of this? When I finally sent the encrypted package and a detailed explanation of the network, I waited, tense. Minutes stretched into hours. Then, a secure call came through. Homeland Security had reviewed a portion of my evidence and wanted to meet. I could hear the doubt in their voices at first. A student? Really, they said. But when I walked them through the proof, the transactions, the encrypted messages, and the shipping details, their skepticism turned into stunned recognition. They could see the scale of the operation, the brazenness of the billionaires, and how close these girls were to disappearing forever. Over the next few days, I worked closely with the agents. We coordinated tracking, monitored encrypted channels, and cross-referenced digital footprints with real-world locations. Every time a new lead appeared, I traced it back, often finding multiple billionaires involved in overlapping operations. The network was enormous, far bigger than anyone expected, and the stakes were higher than ever. If even one part of it leaked, the billionaires could destroy evidence, escape, or hide the girls somewhere else. Every move had to be precise, and the pressure weighed heavily on all of us. Despite the tension, I couldn't help feeling a strange thrill. For the first time, I was part of something bigger than myself. Lives depended on us, and for the first time, I saw my skills making a real difference. Homeland Security was impressed by the depth and accuracy of my work, and I knew that this collaboration could finally bring justice to the girls who had been silenced for too long. But even as we planned, I kept in mind that the billionaires were watching, waiting, and confident that no one could touch them. Every step forward was a delicate balance between exposure and caution, and the entire network was about to be shaken to its core. The deeper we went, the darker it got. Every lead I traced revealed new layers of the operation: more billionaires, more hidden auctions, and more girls who had vanished without a trace. Some of the men were clever, using offshore servers, encrypted messages, and shell companies to hide their tracks. Others were careless, flaunting their wealth in private chats, leaving tiny digital breadcrumbs that I could follow. Each discovery made my stomach turn, but I couldn't stop. Lives were at stake, and every missed clue could mean another girl disappearing forever. I discovered a shocking twist. Some of these billionaires were connected, not just by money, but by mutual deals and hidden alliances. One tech mogul in California was coordinating shipments with a financier in New York. An oil tycoon in Texas was moving girls on private jets to meet them. They thought their network was untraceable, but I could see the pattern. I cross-referenced locations, transactions, and communications. Each breadcrumb led to the next, creating a terrifying map of the dark web empire. Some of them even tried to cover their tracks, scrambling servers and deleting records, but every move they made left subtle hints that I could follow. The tension escalated when I realized one billionaire had spotted unusual activity on his network. I froze, my heart hammering. If he traced me back, everything could be over in an instant. I had to move faster, smarter, and quieter. Using virtual private servers, proxy chains, and encrypted channels, I continued the hunt, tracing every dollar, every code, every hidden message. Slowly, the network unraveled before my eyes. What had once seemed untouchable now felt vulnerable, exposed, and on the brink of collapse. By the end of the week, I had mapped almost the entire network. Every billionaire, every hidden mansion, every shipment route. It was all there in black and white. But there was one more twist. One of the men had already anticipated an attack, preparing private security forces to move the girls to an undisclosed location. The stakes were higher than ever. One wrong move, one delay, and all our progress could be lost. My fingers flew over the keyboard, heart racing, knowing that in the next few hours, lives would hang in the balance. This wasn't just a hack anymore. It was a race against time. The night of the raid, I could barely sleep. Every sound in my apartment made me jump. My monitors glowed like eyes in the dark, showing the latest movements of the billionaires. Homeland Security was ready. Tactical teams were in position. Helicopters hovered above the mansions, and agents prepared to storm the estates where girls were being held. My hands shook as I coordinated with them, sending final maps, locations, and server coordinates. This was it, the culmination of weeks of research, risk, and sleepless nights. Lives were about to be saved, but the danger was higher than ever. At 2 a.m., the first mansion went dark as agents moved in silently, breaching gates, disabling alarms, and taking control. Inside, girls huddled in fear, unaware that the nightmare was ending. The billionaires panicked, shouting orders, calling security, and trying to escape, but it was too late. Every move they made had been anticipated. The tech mogul in California was cuffed in his penthouse, the financier in New York arrested while trying to delete server files, and the oil tycoon's private jets were grounded before they could leave. Shock spread across their faces, arrogance replaced by terror. As the reality hit them, they were no longer untouchable. Multiple twists unfolded simultaneously. One billionaire had attempted a secret escape route, but our team intercepted him on the private road leading to his yacht. Another tried to use bribery to buy freedom, but his phone calls were monitored, and Homeland Security shut him down before he could act. I watched the operation unfold in real time, heart pounding, as the girls were led to safety, agents securing every room, and the once invisible network crumbling under the weight of justice. It was chaos, but controlled chaos, precision, timing, and strategy winning against arrogance and cruelty. By dawn, the network had been dismantled. Billionaires were arrested, girls were safe, and evidence was secured to ensure no one could deny the scale of their crimes. The town, once paralyzed by fear, slowly began to breathe again. Families embraced their rescued daughters, tears flowing freely, while the media began reporting the shocking arrests. It was a victory, but not just for the authorities or the town. It was a personal victory. I had helped bring down a network of men who believed they were above the law. And in doing so, I had changed lives forever. The sun rose over the town, painting the streets with warm light, a stark contrast to the darkness of the nights before. Families reunited with their daughters, tears of relief and joy streaming freely. The town's fear had finally lifted, replaced by cautious hope. I stood outside the Homeland Security Command Center, watching the girls embrace their parents, their faces finally free from the shadow of terror. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of peace, knowing that the nightmare was over for them at least. Homeland Security agents approached me, their expressions serious, but grateful. "You did incredible work," one said, shaking my hand firmly. "You helped us bring down one of the largest and most dangerous human trafficking networks we've ever seen. Without you, we couldn't have done it." I felt a mix of pride and disbelief. A student, alone in a small town, had taken on billionaires who thought themselves untouchable and won. They offered me a position with the agency, recognizing my skills and dedication. My life had changed in ways I never imagined. Even as the dust settled, I couldn't stop thinking about the girls. Each one had a story, a family, a future that had almost been stolen. I promised myself I would keep helping, keep fighting against injustice wherever I could. The network had crumbled, the billionaires exposed, and the girls free. But I knew the fight against evil never truly ended. What mattered was that tonight, justice had been served, and hope had returned to the town. As I walked home, I glanced at my monitors one last time. The digital trails, the encrypted messages, the hidden auctions, all now evidence in the hands of the authorities. The town had been saved, the villains caught, and my life forever changed. I smiled, knowing that courage, skill, and persistence could overcome even the most powerful adversaries. And though I was just a student, I had proven that one person, determined and fearless, could make a difference. For the girls, for the town, and for everyone who had felt powerless, justice had finally been served.